Okay, so now we're going to talk about how we can make our shader do cool things like this. And it's actually incredibly easy. Once again, we have nothing connected to our CPU, but we totally could and use it to make a bunch of cool effects. In the next one, we'll see how we can actually connect this to our CPU to make cool effects. This guy right over here, how it works is when you step on it, it will trigger and it'll do that. Now, what I forgot to mention in the previous one is depending on your settings, you might not actually have brightness. And if you're not getting this reflectivity where stuff is blindingly bright, even though we kind of like it, could be because you don't have bloom enabled. So what you need to do is you need to look for your volume, wherever it might be. Mine's here. And then scroll down until you find bloom. And when you play with the bloom settings, you see how it affects this light and this glow. I'm not qualified to talk about bloom, at least not right now. I need to do more research. But it's trying to replicate how cameras work. That's all I know. And it makes it all fuzzy and pretty and glowy. So look, if you want to learn how bloom works, you take the intermediate computer graphics course. And they'll tell you in there. Okay, great. So, let's get to making this. Once again, if you don't want to make it, you don't have to. Get out of here if you don't want to make it. If you do, nice, and let's do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate our previous script. And I'm going to get rid of the stuff I did just for this demo, and we just have a blank coin to work with. With our duplicated script, we're going to add emissive to the front, and then we're going to right-click and create a material. Here we go. Attach the material, and then we're going to want to choose the color. So I want it to look exactly like the coin. And you can choose whatever you want to choose, really. You are the artist here. And that's kind of the nice thing about this, is that unlike, classical art, where you have to draw and then it's sadness because it doesn't look good, this is just numbers, man. And then there you go. The numbers are doing the thing. So we've got a pretty similar looking coin. And let's open our shader graph. The main property that we want to change here is the emission property. Now, there's a concept called UV mapping, and the idea is that our texture has the 2D texture coordinates where we can store information about its material and how it looks. Now, I am not an expert on this. I expect my group mates to know better about this than I do, but I don't want to ask them because it's 1 a.m. So what you do is you're going to go into Blender, and if you're using Blender, you got to shout out to Professor Ball because he's teaching you this stuff, and if you weren't paying attention, that's on you, man. But we've got our coin. We can UV unwrap it, and then we can export the UV unwrap as an image. Then, after some mild photo editing, we end up with something like this. So first of all, we ended up with something like, let me try to find it really quick, something like this one. And then what I did is I edited it and I drew my image. So you guys will have access to this. Now, you're wondering why it's red. And the reason for that is because we want to try to compress as much data as we can into our gritty little hyperly aggressive program, right? So why is it red? That's because a color is composed of 8 bits and then times 4 for 4 different channels. You have red, green, blue, alpha. Because we're saving this as a JPEG, we are saving a little bit of optimization as well because we're saying that we don't care about alpha. So it's really just RGB. And then furthermore, by only using the red channel to show the user what the coin looks like, that's going to be our, in quotes, ignore channel. But you can still totally use it. It's up to you. So what we can do is we can use the pure green channel, so pure green, to draw something. I don't recommend you write words because you'll see what happens. It looks kind of jank. But you can make nice little shapes and patterns, and repeating stuff will probably look good. You really got to know what you're doing if you're going to write on it. That's my opinion. Especially, it's easier if it's your model. Like, if I will just do... This is like kind of the icon for the game, if I could actually draw And this is why I like shaders and not actually drawing. Cool. And then we're going to go even a little bit further in this one. Let's make it so that way we're actually doing a 2-channel thing. And I want this outer rim here, I want that to glow. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to change my color channel to pure blue. So now I'm going to use the blue channel, and I'm going to fill, and I'm just going to fill these edges. I have contiguous on, which means that it's not going to go out of these boxes here. Whoops. I'm just going to make my way around and fill them in. Then I'm going to export it. It's a JPEG. Let's get this into Unity. So pull it back onto my other screen. And now to Blender. I'm not going to show you how to use Blender. I don't want to. I don't like doing that. It's not my job. And here it is, our new coin texture. So what we're going to do, let's go back to our shader graph and let's set this up. It's really, really easy. First of all, we're going to do a texture 2D, and it's going to be called main text, or let's not call it that, let's just call it text. Texture, geez. Okay, then connect it to a sample texture 2D node. Okay, now in here we can put in our default texture, and let's use the one that we just made, this bad boy. You can see it. What we're going to do is we want to sample the R, G, and B components of our texture and then multiply it by an emissive property. So we're going to create 2 more variables, and this one's going to be color A, and this one's going to be color B. Everything has a disadvantage and advantage to doing it in like the way that we're doing it. Next time, you'll kind of see what I mean by that. And not quite, I'm not being clear, am I? Essentially, colors are great, but you can't do much with them. They're pretty much going to stay that same color. There's something that's going to allow us to make it change colors, and I'll show you that in a second, but it's not as tweakable, or at least not as easy, and it's a little bit more expensive, but it's pretty damn sick. So yeah, you'll see that soon. Now what you'll notice is there's no actual option to make it glow here. So change the mode to HDR, and you have to do this to both color A and color B. And then choose a default color. So I want my green to glow red. Deal with it. And I want my blue to glow, let's do like a purple. So we'll do like that. You can see the glow colors. This is the default. This color is a little too pure red, so it needs to be like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my color A and B, and you can multiply a color by a float, which will multiply all 4. It's just simple vector multiplication. And that'll give you an output. So you can see, there you go. There's the red channel, or the green channel multiplied. Let me actually fix my wiring here, because that's disgusting. And then let's do the blue. Again, multiply to top, and this one in the bottom. Okay. And you can see there's like a bit of compression issues, but you're not going to really notice it. And if you're a hardcore, then I mean fix it. But I'm not picky. Anyways, we're just going to add these back together now. And there you go. That's emissive. So we'll save the asset, and we'll go back to the scene. Jesus, okay, I made it too bright. Again, you can edit your bloom settings if it's too bright, or you just tone it down. Tone it down, Terry. Goodness, okay, it is still just, hold on. Okay, so it wasn't a problem with it being too bright. The emissive texture is taking up the entire thing. That's because I forgot to put a texture in, because I'm silly. So by default, it's white, and because it's white, 1 times this is added together, and you get pink, right? So we do this, and there you go, you get a texture. And you can see that we have these lines between them. That's because, like I said, I didn't paint that out in the image. But anyways, now you can make it glow, and pretty cool. And we can change the colors of one and not the other. And you can also modify the red if you want it as well. Everything is in that image that you guys will have access to, and you can even make your own stuff. You can do this with any model. There's a spaceship, like modular spaceship system. That's how I learned how to do this, which is awesome. Yeah, you just like custom color stuff. Now, let's say you want the color to be like animated, like mine was. So I'm going to put it back to this one because this one was sick in my opinion. It was sick. It was cooler. Whatever. Deal with it. Let's edit it. And we're going to change this. So I'm just going to remove this because we don't need it. And color A and color B can go as well. We're going to keep the texture part because that's fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a gradient node. Now a gradient is something you can add up here. Yes. You can edit its properties in code. Yes. But you can't edit it over here. So I guess I'll show you this. We're just going to make a gradient. We'll drag it in, G. Then we're going to say sample gradient. And we have a time spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a time node. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say fract. And how fract works is it's going to modulo the number and keep it within the ranges from 0 to 1. And the reason we want that is because if you look in the gradient, at 0 is this, and at 1 is this. So that way it's going to repeat forever. Alternatively, you could try doing sine time, and that might give you a nice effect as well, because that's also going to be capped. But I think this might be better to work with. So we'll plug these in. And then again, multiply your colors with your channels. So multiply these colors, and then we'll plug this into our output. And this doesn't have to be for emissive, it could be for base color as well if you prefer. And you get a lot of flexibility with this, like a lot, and you could do absolutely crazy stuff. Anyways, so with this, we can save it, and now let's go to our scene. And as you can see in the material section, we actually have nothing to do with our guy, and it's just white. So what we're going to do is go back, change the gradient, and we're going to move things over. So I'm going to say this is 12.5, and this one over here at the end is going to be 87.5, so I have the same gap. I'm going to add another one in the middle. That's going to be exactly dead center. Okay, and then, whoops, then I'm just going to choose colors. So this one is going to be kind of like the peak color, right? So it's going to be like a deep blue kind of color. Maybe you want it to like have a little more vibrance to it. So then we put one at 50. Oh, that's not 50, 40, and the one's at 60. And then it can like increase the brightness just a little bit. And increase like the deepness of this purple. Sorry, this should be brighter and this one should be lighter. And you know, it's all artistic choice. And then we can do like a red. Yeah. There we go. And you probably want these to be the same color actually. So before we do this, let's copy the color, but like this. And then let's do HDR to them both. So just plus 2, 2. Okay. Now there's a bit of a problem with this. And that is that it's really bloody fast. Like that doesn't look great. So what we can do is we can add a float, and it's going to be called duration. And then if we just divide the time by the duration, then that's going to increase the time, and well, that would do it. There's a problem with division though, and that is you can't divide by 0. So default value of like 10. And this is going to work because if you wanted to go for 1 second, you divide it by 10, you're going for 10 seconds, and then you take the fraction of that, and it just repeats forever. So now it's a 10-second cycle, and then we put this to 10. And there you go. You get this nice, smooth gradient, glowing effect, and you can increase the brightness maybe a little bit more when it. Oh no, that looks great actually. And you know, it's really for you guys to play with. There's so many cool things you can do with this, and don't think you're limited to 3D because you're not. You can do stuff like this in 2D. Yeah, and that concludes a little bit about the Fragment Shader. We're talking about emissions and customization. Next week, we're going to talk about how to combine C++, not C++, shader graph with our code. So that way we can make this effect whenever you step on a button. And there's going to be a lot more code in that one. So brush up on your C#. And if you're paying attention, you should be able to apply it to your coins as well. Alrighty, I'll see you then.